Hi everyone. That's all the coffee I had here. Um, Toy Story 4. I saw it a few days ago. I don't think it's that great of a Toy Story film. So, yeah. I went to see Toy Story 4, which is obviously the fourth installment of the Toy Story series. The first one came out in maybe the early 90s, and as far as I know, was a revolutionary film where animated films are concerned. As from if I'm remembering correctly, it was the first fully animated CGI film. If I'm remembering correctly. If that's not true, then comment down below and correct my misguided opinion. Is that how you say it? Misguided opinion? But at any rate, since the late 90s, we've also gotten Toy Story 2 and also Toy Story 3 about 9 years ago, and all three of the films are universally beloved. Everybody loves them. It's considered a perfect trilogy by many. So when Disney announced that there would be a fourth one, fans were a little bit concerned. How could this live up to the trilogy? Is this gonna just feel like a tacked on sequel that nobody likes? Well, it's been out for a few days, and I think the consensus is that it's actually a very good sequel and that everybody loves it. Except for me. Well, what can I say? I went into this and I was emotionally attached to the characters throughout the film. This was a good movie, but not a good Toy Story sequel. A lot of the elements fell flat because I just couldn't suspend my belief that far. I could suspend my belief in a world where toys walk, talk, and interact and feel emotion fine. Like, that's not too much of a stretch for me. But some things like character development and storytelling, I need those to make sense to me too. And some of it didn't really work for me in this movie. Maybe I need to watch it a few more times, or maybe I just need to be a little bit less nitpicky when it comes to films. Maybe then I could see why everyone loves this film. I personally think it's a good film with gorgeous animation that does give a nice send off to some of these characters, but it just doesn't work in some areas. So here is a criticism of Toy Story 4 told by a guy eating strawberry milkshake tacos and also a sandwich. And peanut butter. It's almost a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Alright. Believe it or not, I actually have notes. They're very poorly written, but they are notes. Note that. Okay, so the story opens up maybe a year and 6 months, tops, after Toy Story 3. Everyone's settled into Bonnie's playroom, except for Woody, oddly enough, who in the last movie was Bonnie's favorite toy. Now in this movie, she grabs Jessie out of the closet and Buzz and the doll and the hedgehog. She's grabbing all of her toys, but when she comes to Woody, she's just like, yeet! It was kind of disconcerting, actually, because she really loved Woody in the first movie, but now all at once she suddenly decided that she didn't like him anymore. It's kind of weird. I know that kids have different toys they like. Like their needs can change and stuff, just like people, adults, like adults. But this felt very weird. I know that the first Toy Story focused on the idea that Andy suddenly liked Buzz, but I feel like that was because Buzz was the new and flashy thing, and he was really glad to have it. But he still loved Woody deep in his heart. When he lost Woody and Buzz, he was distraught. He wasn't just like, ugh, that cowboy doll I used to like. Well, too bad it's gone, but I need my Buzz Lightyear. Like, he was still emotionally attached to Woody. Woody just didn't not matter to him anymore. With Bonnie, her dislike for Woody is kind of out of nowhere and isn't really explained. She plays with all of her toys except Woody and a few baby toys. What did Woody do to deserve this? I don't know. However, that criticism is kind of off because Woody needs to be in this position for his story to unfold. Woody feels kind of pointless. He doesn't feel like he's very useful because he's not sure what a toy who doesn't have a kid can do. What's his purpose? Like, if he didn't have a kid, What is a toy supposed to do? So anyway, Bonnie makes a new toy called Forky, who's a spork made out of several items from the trash. Is that gum or is that paste? I don't know. I don't know. That was kind of gross, and I kind of wish that they hadn't done that. That's really nasty. But the way the film sets up Forky, you think he's gonna be like this huge plot point. You know, like how do toys come to life? What does it mean to be a toy? How is he gonna go from being a piece of trash to being a toy who would do anything for his owner? And the thing of it is, the film does touch up on these subjects. The toy is kind of confused as to why he's alive. He does think he's just a piece of trash. And then he does realize that Bonnie needs him. But he realizes this within the first, 20 minutes of the movie. And then after that, he's literally just a pawn in a... In a game of toy chess. Yeah, basically, I feel like Forky is a bit overblown. They're just like, hey, look at this really important character. It's a new concept for toys, that toys can be created by kids, and we can't stand it. We can't believe how marvelous this is. But then at the end of the day, he could have been switched out with any other character. Who cares if he's a spork that was created by Bonnie? He literally could have been made by anyone. And I know that's a weird criticism because all the toys in the story are a gimmick of some sort. Like Duke Kaboom is an 80s action figure toy, I think. Woody's an old style toy. The ventriloquist dolls in this movie are ventriloquist dolls. What I'm saying is all the toys have their own unique persona, so I'm really just criticizing Forky for being a different kind of toy, a homemade toy. The problem I have with it is not that it's a gimmick, but the fact that they act like this gimmick is going to be a big part of the story. It's not. Literally, the only relevance it has to the story is, it can happen. A kid can make a toy, and it will come to life. That's the only thing. If you were going to watch this movie wondering how this would affect toys forever, it doesn't. It doesn't. It really doesn't. Unless you disagree. I feel like you could read into it differently. If you think I'm wrong about that, please comment down below. But at any rate, Forky wants to go in the trash because he doesn't believe he's a real toy. He just wants to be used and then dumped and forgotten. So he runs away while the family goes camping, and Woody has to trail after him. And this is a lot of where the film takes place. The rest of the cast is with the family on the trip, trying to stop them from leaving so that Woody and Forky can catch up at the bread and breakfast they're staying at. They, poke the tires and stuff, and they, pretend to be a GPS at one point, just so Woody and Forky get back to the van. The secondary characters are barely in this film, which is my third criticism. They're barely there. There's a lot of toys in this movie, like Duke Kaboom is one of them. There's this little tiny police officer who just runs around and does stuff. And, there's a lot of characters. We even get Bo Peep and her sheep back. But I wanted to focus on the characters I've been attached to all these years. I mean, I don't know, call me dumb, but if you're going to make a movie about these characters that I haven't seen in about 9 years, then I want it to focus on the characters that I haven't seen in 9 years. Out of the original toy cast, the only ones we really get to spend any time with are Woody, Buzz, and Bo Peep. That's it. Everyone else is just pushed off to the side like they don't matter. And even Buzz, even though he's in a lot of this movie, his character arc is kind of odd. For some weird reason, they dumbed down his persona to, a fault. He suddenly doesn't understand what the concept of a conscience is, and when Woody tells him to follow his inner voice, he thinks it means pressing your chest and listening to what the automated voice inside you tells you to do. For example, hey, I want to break up with my girlfriend, but I don't know how. What am I going to do? Why didn't I think of this before? Yeah, so that was kind of lame, I'll be honest. It was played up mostly for laughs, I guess, and it did resolve itself in a character arc. I think Buzz eventually realized that you can't just press your chest and get the advice you need, but it still felt kind of odd that you would reduce Buzz to such a weird state of stupidity. I don't know. Yeah, so the secondary characters were barely in it, and that was a problem for me. That was a big, fat problem. They only feature in the beginning, a little bit in the middle, and then in the end. That's it. I think. I don't know. That was a problem for me. Okay, so Woody and Forky are trying to get back to Bonnie because Forky finally gets it through Edit. Woody finally gets it through Forky's brain that Bonnie needs him, and Forky wants to go back and be her trash. That got a big laugh out of my crowd. They stop by an antique store because Woody realizes that he sees something of Bo Peep's in this antique store window. So they go in the antique store, but they're captured by Gabby Gabby and her ventriloquist doll Goonies. Basically, Gabby Gabby wants to steal the voice box inside of Woody, to fix her own voice box so she might finally get adopted by a toy. Here's the thing. Gabby Gabby is supposed to be a sympathetic villain. That's her character. She's supposed to be a villain who wants to do something, take something away from Woody, but she has a good reason to do it. There's nothing wrong with that. Lotso in Toy Story 3 was a person who got spurned by his last owner, and he felt basically enraged by that. He was hurt, and he needed... basically, his actions, although unjustifiable, were understandable. That's not Gabby Gabby. Gabby Gabby, when she's first introduced, is supposed to be this creepy, almost a stand-in for a rape allegory, because she wants to get to Woody and take something from him without his permission. She is literally going to rip him open and take out his voice box. And the way they play it up in the film, you almost think, wow, are they literally thinking about killing Woody? Because Woody's just like, it's like really terrifying for Woody at the time. And then the movie goes on, and she has Forky hostage, and she's learning through him all the stuff she can about Woody, and you learn her motivations. It's like, okay, so she's really nasty holding Forky hostage and learning how to manipulate Woody. But we see why she wants her voice back. She wants to be able to be adopted by a kid. Then finally, she coerces Woody to give him the voice box. She explains her trauma and stuff, and she really, really, really wants that voice box. And so he gives it to her. By the way, it doesn't end up being a big deal. They just do a little operation, and then he's like, okay, I'm fine. Voiceless, but fine. And after this, Gabby Gabby's villainousness is never brought up again. Not once. Look, you can't set someone up as a villain and then just transfer her over to relatable character and not have a redemption arc. I'm sorry, but that's one of the biggest problems with this film, is that Gabby Gabby is set up to be a villain. All of her acts are considered villainous. She kidnaps Forky, she wants to steal Woody's voice box, she was going to do it without his permission. And even some of the characters like Bo Peep, when they hear about Gabby Gabby from Woody, they're like, oh no, Gabby Gabby, that toy. Everything sets her up to be a villain, but then there's no twist. There's no twist that reveals she was good all along. There's no arc where she realizes what she's done is wrong. There's none of that. They just bring up the fact she's relatable, and that immediately makes everything fine. Now, don't get me wrong. When Gabby Gabby finally finds her ending, that's emotional. That's emotional because I know it means a lot to her. And it's nice that Woody has forgiven her for stealing his voice box, or taking it because he gave it away after she guilted him into giving it to her. But why does Woody forgive her? There's never any scene in this movie which indicates that Woody needs to forgive her, because they forgot to make her say sorry, and Woody had to forgive her. So it's weird. It's like they did the redemption story arc in the story without actually including a redemption for Gabby Gabby. She was evil, then she was relatable, and then she was good. Okay, maybe I missed something. Maybe I fell asleep. A minor criticism. What happened to Bo Peep? The personality change is a bit weird, but that's not what I mean. I literally mean, what happened to her face? I'm sorry, but I remember her being, really tiny, really small eyes, and, a very different, face. But in this movie, she has, really big eyes, and I'm sorry, but isn't she porcelain? Did they, melt her down, or is this, an alternate universe? Or am I just nitpicking too much into a kid's film? Maybe. It's a minor criticism. But basically, this whole movie culminates with he meets up with Bo Peep, they try to save Forky, and then Woody learns a lot about himself and that, maybe he's trying too hard to be in Bonnie's good graces because he basically, he's saying he's trying to rescue Forky because Forky means a lot to Bonnie, and in doing so, he means something to Bonnie. As in, Woody means something to Bonnie because he's helping Bonnie. But there's this weird part where they tried to rescue Forky. They don't succeed, and Woody's like, let's go back, guys. And the toys are all like, Woody, you're just doing this for yourself. Come on, guys, let's go. And they leave, and all I'm thinking of is, Forky is hostage, and he's a toy. How do you not care? Like, they literally are just like, there's a kidnapped victim in that place, but we don't care. Like, they literally don't. They don't even say, like, oh dear, this is bad. Whew. Sorry, Forky. They're just like, cut your losses, Woody. What if it had been Rex inside that shop? If they had just been like, cut your losses, the audience would have lost their minds. In fact, I'm kind of weirded out that they didn't lose their minds. I'm sorry, I thought I was going to end the review, but as it turns out, that part really bothered me. You literally had a character under hostage by the bad guy, and they acted like it didn't matter. It was more of a focus on Woody's motivations, like, oh, you only want to save him so that Bonnie will like you. Yeah, but that doesn't change the fact that there's a person kidnapped inside the antique store who needs to be rescued. What the heck, guys? But at any rate, Woody comes to terms with the fact that, maybe he doesn't need to be owned by Bonnie in order to have self-worth. I'm sorry if I got that message wrong. I guess Bo Peep learns a little bit about, putting yourself out there because she has kind of this self-preservation thing now. And then, Buzz has his character arc about not listening to your literal inner voice. And they all meet up. This was the emotional part for me. All the characters meet up on the top of the family's van, which is about to leave. They're all going over, and, Bo Peep, she's been on her own for a while now, and she's not going to stop there. She's going to go back to the wild with her other toy friends, and she's like, goodbye, Woody. And then, Woody clearly doesn't want to leave Bo Peep, but he doesn't want to leave Bonnie either. And so then Buzz is like, she'll be fine. Bonnie will be fine. Yep, so the last 5 minutes of this film made me want to cry. In fact, I did cry. Not a lot, but a little bit. Just a little bit. And all the toys come out on the roof and they say goodbye. It's a pretty emotional scene. I would say it's not earned because the characters were barely in the movie, like when Jesse comes out to hug him, but we've seen them through the other films, so I guess that's fine. Forky says goodbye to Woody, they all do, and then Woody goes off with Bo Peep to live with her and her friends in the wild. I feel like I didn't touch up on that at all. Oh well, it's not important. The wild toys are fine. They're fine. You know what? If the toys want to be in the wild to be played by kids in the playground, and not be owned by anyone specifically, that's a fine concept. That's a fine idea. I don't like it, but it's okay. It's not a criticism. It's something that I don't like in the movie, but that's just my personal taste. I don't know. Don't make it too complicated, guys. That's not a criticism, because it's not worth criticizing. So yeah, Toy Story 4. Those were basically the reasons I didn't enjoy this film as much as I should have. I feel like I didn't do that great a job. So I'm sorry. I have very strong feelings and opinions about this, but sometimes when I'm speaking and telling people things, I don't know how to quite express it, so I just say what makes sense. And I'm not really being 100% accurate with my statement. So if you guys think that I'm completely full of crap, hit that dislike button. Because and then maybe comment down below and tell me what I did wrong. Or even if you just disagree with me, just tell me what you think, and I'll acknowledge it. Well, not necessarily all the time, but I'll at least read it and be like, oh, that's a good point.